President Donald Trump has issued a dramatic new warning to Iran, promising what he calls an economic D-Day, a campaign designed to hit Tehran not with another wave of missiles, but with the full force of America's financial power. And this threat could go far beyond Iran itself. Trump is warning that countries, companies, banks, shipping networks, and other businesses that continue providing Iran with an economic lifeline could also face serious consequences from the United States. The administration is presenting this as a new phase of its campaign against Tehran, one built around economic isolation and increasingly aggressive sanctions. But what exactly does an economic D-Day look like, and could it actually force Iran to change course? The United States has sanctioned Iran for decades, targeting everything from its banking system and oil exports to military officials and companies connected to the government. What makes Trump's latest threat different is the emphasis on secondary sanctions. Secondary sanctions essentially tell foreign companies and governments, you may have to choose between doing business with Iran and maintaining access to the American financial system. That matters because the United States remains at the center of the global financial system. International banks rely heavily on access to US dollars, American financial institutions, and US markets. Losing that access could be far more costly for many companies than losing business with Iran. The Trump administration appears to be betting that this choice will frighten businesses away from Tehran and make Iran increasingly difficult to trade with. China and India could become especially important in this battle because they have historically been major destinations for Iranian energy exports. According to Associated Press reporting, Trump's expanded strategy threatens countries and businesses that continue trading with Iran, potentially putting some of Iran's biggest economic partners under pressure. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has already been pursuing the financial networks Washington says Tehran uses to get around existing sanctions. Earlier this month, the Treasury Department announced action against international networks accused of helping Iran move hundreds of millions of dollars through what the department describes as a shadow banking system. Treasury has also targeted cryptocurrency exchanges and front companies it says helped Iranian organizations move money outside traditional banking channels. That gives us an idea of what Trump's economic D-Day could mean in practice. Instead of simply sanctioning another Iranian official or government agency, Washington could increasingly follow the money across borders, targeting oil traders, shipping companies, financial intermediaries, cryptocurrency operations, and foreign companies accused of helping Tehran evade restrictions. The ultimate objective is to put enough financial pressure on Iran that its leaders decide continuing the confrontation is more costly than negotiating. Trump's administration is trying to force Tehran to make concessions over major issues including Iran's nuclear program and the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important energy shipping routes. The administration has described the broader strategy as Operation Economic Fury. But there is a major problem with this strategy. Iran has lived under American sanctions for decades. The country has developed networks specifically designed to survive economic restrictions, including alternative financial channels, informal trade networks, and methods for disguising the origin and destination of oil shipments. That doesn't mean sanctions haven't hurt Iran. Iran's economy is already facing enormous pressure. Recent reporting describes severe inflation, currency weakness, and growing difficulty for ordinary Iranian families trying to afford basic necessities. But economic pain and political surrender are not necessarily the same thing. History shows governments can sometimes withstand extreme economic pressure for years, especially when their leaders believe surrender would threaten their survival. And Tehran is publicly rejecting Trump's threat. Iranian officials have described America's strategy as another failed attempt to force the country into submission. Iran's government argues that additional sanctions will only increase hostility rather than produce a settlement. There is also another major question: what happens to the rest of the world? Iran is a major energy producer, and the Strait of Hormuz remains critical to global oil supplies. Any policy that makes Iranian oil harder to sell combined with continued instability around the strait could put additional pressure on global energy markets. We've already seen how sensitive markets are. Oil prices climbed following Trump's announcement, as investors weighed the possibility of tighter restrictions on Iranian exports and additional disruption in the region. And higher oil prices don't stay at the oil market. They can eventually affect gasoline prices, transportation expenses, airline costs, manufacturing, and potentially inflation. That means Trump's strategy presents Washington with a difficult balancing act. The administration wants to hurt Iran economically without creating so much disruption that American consumers and businesses end up paying part of the price. Then there is China. If Beijing refuses to cooperate with Washington's sanctions strategy, the confrontation could expand beyond Iran and become another economic dispute between the world's two largest economies. China has already criticized the latest American pressure campaign and argued that additional sanctions could worsen tensions rather than resolve them. So Trump's economic D-Day is ultimately much bigger than another sanctions announcement. It is an attempt to use America's position in the global economy as a weapon. The message to Iran is simple. Washington wants to make it increasingly difficult for Tehran to sell oil, move money, and maintain relationships with international businesses. But the message to the rest of the world may be even more significant. Doing business with Iran could mean risking business with America. Whether that pressure finally pushes Tehran toward a deal is the trillion-dollar question. Supporters of Trump's strategy believe Iran's economy may eventually reach a breaking point and force its leadership back to negotiations. Critics argue Iran has survived sanctions before and that even stronger economic pressure could deepen the confrontation without producing the political outcome Washington wants. Either way, Trump's economic D-Day could become one of the biggest tests yet of whether America's economic power can accomplish what military pressure and decades of sanctions have struggled to achieve. And if countries like China refuse to cooperate, this economic battle could spread far beyond Iran. Do you think Trump's economic D-Day strategy will force Iran to negotiate, or will it create an even bigger global economic confrontation? Let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe for more breaking political and world news.